One day I'm having my perfect day in my spot. And I even referred to it. I went to my spot today. Like I had ownership of this. This was my spot. And as I was writing one day, there was an interference, an irritant in my landscape that I had become attached to it being perfect in a certain way. And what it was a scent. There was the scent, and when it came across, I'm like, what is that? And there was somebody up on top of the bluff who was smoking a cigar. And he started to come there every morning too. And he would smoke his cigar and I would smell the smoke, and it would so interrupt my peace of mind. And I mean, I had my opinions about this person. And I bet you don't ever have an opinion about anybody or anything, but I sure do. And I had an opinion about him, and gosh darn it, he was interrupting my perfect experience.
Hi, my name is Colleen. I live here in Nashville, Tennessee, and I just want to share with you why I find True Thought spiritual community, True Thought ministry is something that is part of my life. It's beautiful. It brings a sense of peace and joy to my everyday being. I give you a little bit of myself. I started spiritual journey, spiritual seeking, spiritual pathway a little over 20 years ago. And I was going through some tough times in my life. And I really wanted to find something better that was simple to make me happy. I have taken many classes, many teachers of all kinds, Buddhism, Taoism, to Eckhart Tolle, to Deepak Chopra, to Tony Robbins, even to the law of attraction. It has just been a life changer, and how grateful I am to Brother T and Reverend René for their teaching of many things that I have learned in the past from many different teachings. They brought it together in one. There's so much richness in their information and so much richness in their teaching, and the love that they put behind it is amazing. And every Sunday, to hear their Sunday message, I just feel, again, with my community, even though it's over the internet, it's not in person, but I'm still in person. To where on Wednesdays we have our Inside the Message, and then we have our talk afterwards, and we commune with people from around in different states. How exciting it was and is to this day that I get to be part of such a community. So much love and kindness and compassion that these two bring to not just me, but to many, many, many people and hearts in our community and around the United States. You know, if this resonates with you to grow your spirituality deeper on another level of consciousness, Christ consciousness, I really would love to see you participate in our Sundays, Sunday message, and then on Wednesdays, and we to see each other. So it's a lot of fun. Well, I really hope to see you all there. It's something that you won't be disappointed. At least I wasn't, and my husband isn't. So thank you. Thank you. Namaste.
Good morning, True Thought spiritual community. So very grateful that you are joining us today. What a magnificent day. And so I'm going to invite us to connect in heart and mind. I'm going to invite you, if you're able and where you are, to just allow the body eyes to close for a moment of turning within. And that we turn within to spirit, to cause, to love, to our divine inheritance and nature. And in this pausing, remembering again that God is, love is, all that there is, that there's this power in this presence that is benevolent, that is intelligent, that is good, that knows no big or small, simply knows the purity and the innocence and the beauty of all of creation, and therefore knows who you are, what you are, and how you serve. And so joining in this consciousness together, allowing my voice to become your voice of the highest self, I say, I know who I am. I know who I am as spirit, unlimited and free. I know what I am as Christ, as the extension and expression of this benevolent presence I call God. And I know how I serve as an extension and expression of love. This is who I am, what I am, how I serve. And in this unified field of consciousness, we are one. And so I bless all my brothers and sisters who have joined us here today. I call our conversation good. I say something wonderful and magnificent is happening. I call forth an opening in heart and mind to receive and then to give forth from the consciousness that we anchor during our time together, knowing it matters because it elevates the consciousness for all and blesses all of creation. This is what I know, this is what I claim. And together we say, and so it is. And so I let it be. I am so excited because today I want to share a story with you. It's a story that I actually came across as I was going through my journals, some of my old journals, and in a process of kind of releasing some of them, towards the end of the year here. And I came across my journal of our wedding and our honeymoon. And as I was reading it, I came across this series in my writing that to me illustrates the levels of consciousness. And once we understand them and we can see them in this story, what we realize is that we can then use this map to navigate any situation in our lives, whether we would call it big or small, that truth is true always. And so these principles, this map, can be navigated no matter what's going on in your life. So I want to share this with you as an illustration of this. And it's meaningful to me because it was so much fun to go back and read that journal. So Tony and I got married 2 years ago in Hawaii. We went to one island. We went to the island of Kauai. We decided to just stay there to kind of immerse ourselves into one island and one experience as if we lived there, because we were going to be there for 3 weeks. And so we started to settle in, and we were in a condo that was on the beach in Kauai. And part of what I love to do, and I can see this in my writing in my journal, is I love to create my morning routine of connecting with spirit. And it tends to involve nature and walking and just being out and about, but it also includes journaling. And so what ended up developing as my morning routine was the desire to wake up early and to see the magnificent sunrise. And so what I would do is that I would wake up early, I would get my little bag, and I'd have my journal and a pen in it, and some money to pay for my coffee, and I would go on my little route, and I would go to the adjacent community and get my coffee, and I got to know the people there, and then I'd make a beeline for the end of the property where the pathway ended, and at the very end I would go down this bluff onto the beach. And there was this magnificent tree there, beautiful tree. And with the ebb and flow of the water, it had eroded the sand. And so its roots were exposed, and it was kind of hanging on this bluff, and the foliage would go over the ocean. And at times the waves would kick up to the leaves, but exposed were its roots, and it offered this perfect place for me to sit every morning, to greet the morning, to see the sunrise, to go off on a walk and drink my coffee, and then sit and immerse myself in this landscape, in this magnificent scene, and I would journal. And I saw this story emerge in my journal, which takes us along this level of consciousness that I just thought was so much fun to read the other day, and I want to share it with you. And so one day I'm having my perfect day in my spot, and I even referred to it. I went to my spot today, like I had ownership of this. This was my spot. And as I was writing one day, there was an interference, an irritant in my landscape that I had become attached to it being perfect in a certain way. And what it was a scent. There was the scent, and when it came across, I'm like, what is that? And there was somebody up on top of the bluff who was smoking a cigar. And he started to come there every morning too. And he would smoke his cigar, and I would smell the smoke, and it would so interrupt my peace of mind. And I mean, I had my opinions about this person. And I bet you don't ever have an opinion about anybody or anything, but I sure do. And I had an opinion about him, and gosh darn it, he was interrupting my perfect experience. And this went on for a couple of days. Another part of the landscape that I noticed was that I was really fascinated with were these crabs. And these crabs I would watch them, and they were so diligent, and they didn't care whether I was there. They didn't care what was going around. They had their crab duties that they did. And what that was, that they were digging their hole and they were clearing it out. And they'd go down their hole and they'd grab a bunch of dirt, and then they'd come back up and they'd just spit that dirt right on out. And I was fascinated with them. I took a ton of pictures of these little guys. I admired their persistence, their focus and attention on what they were doing. A couple days go by, and I realize that just like those crabs, I need to tend to my home, to my consciousness. This guy who's been interrupting my peace, the cigar smoker, I can begin to change my thoughts about this situation. I can begin to think about it differently, to not be angry or irritated. I can begin to take a higher thought to the best of my ability. I can choose a higher thought. You know, things like, well, everybody has a right to be here and to show up as they are. And you know, he's a beloved child of God, and he's enjoying himself so much. Certainly we can share this experience in a way that's harmonious for us all. And I began to bless him, and I began to embrace him into my particular landscape of the way things are or were at that time. And it began to subside. And as another day or so went by, he's there again, and I smell the smoke, and he becomes like this friend in a way in my mind. And as I relaxed into his presence, I noticed that very same irritant had shifted, and that very scent, that cigar smoke, opened up a memory for me of my grandfather, who's been long past, when I was actually a very little girl, but he used to smoke a cigar. And I had these fond memories that opened up about him because of the scent of that cigar. And then I had another memory of later in my life when I was in sales, national sales, and traveling all over the country. There was a region that I worked with a coworker, and he smoked a cigar. And when I was working with him, he'd have one for me, and we'd smoke cigars together. And it was fun. It was eccentric. It wasn't something I did a lot, but it evoked that memory, and I had a fond memory of that. And so as time passed, that didn't become my focus. I was focused in the oneness. And what I realized was that this area that at first I wanted to own, at first I wanted to control, at first was mine, was really not. I was sharing it with the guy smoking the cigar, the little crabs, the beauty of the ocean, the passersby. There was this whole scene that was always unfolding on the landscape of the sun rising and then the waves and the way that the sky would be. It was so magnificent, and the birds. It was beautiful, but it wasn't just mine. It was all of ours. And that in this oneness, as I would rise to letting go of any sense of ownership, any sense of control, any sense of separation, there was this blissful experience of oneness, of knowing that I am part of a magnificent universe that is so beautiful and for me. Even when the clouds would come and the rain would come, everything was a magnificent experience. And so I wanted to share this experience with you because we've been talking about these levels of consciousness. And as I looked at my own journal and went through the pages, I was like, oh my gosh, I shifted and changed throughout that whole little narrative, that thread that contained this man who was smoking a cigar. And at the very end of the story, there I am on our beach, enjoying the beauty and my routine and the connection. And I didn't smell the scent of the cigar. And I realized he was no longer there. And I missed him. I missed him. I missed his presence. I missed the scent of the cigar, just, lightly. And here I am 2 years later. And somehow, in some way, that man, who I never really met, taught me a lesson. That we are connected, and now you're connected with him too. When I can look at how I went through my own narrative and my own story, I can see where I was a victim, where I thought that cigar smoke could interfere with my experience. I believed that the cause of my well-being was outside of myself. And as the crabs taught me, no, I could go within and tend to my own experience. And as I released the blame of this individual and to the best of my ability shifted my focus and attention to all the myriad of other things that I could be focused on, that receded as an irritant and became a blessing. I rose in consciousness and I took responsibility for my experience and for my thoughts. I want to pause here and I want to read something to you. So at this level of consciousness, it's a level of consciousness of taking responsibility for our experience, of remembering that we are at cause in our lives. And a lesson in A Course in Miracles says, I am affected only by my thoughts. I am affected only by my thoughts. When we accept and receive this one statement, this one principle of truth, it can allow all of salvation for all of the world to be experienced. Because in this single thought, everyone is released from fear. Now, how can that be? How can that be? Because we have learned that the only thing that can frighten us, the only thing that can irritate us, the only thing that can take us off balance is our own thinking about a thing. And since that's the only thing that can frighten us, it's the power that we have then to set ourselves free, because we can exchange thoughts of fear, thoughts of irritation with thoughts of love. And for me, that's what those crabs represented, tending to my own consciousness, my own thoughts. Now, as I rise in that consciousness, there comes a point where, you know what, though, my best thinking can only take me so far. And in that landscape, I could say, you know what, he had a right to be there. But it was only in offering my best thinking to the awakened aspect of myself, the divine of myself, to God, if you will, or to the Christ of my being, other thoughts start to come. I become willing to say, here's my best thought, here's my best working of knowing I'm at the effect of my thought. Here's my best thinking. I'm gonna choose the best thought I can of love. But truly, it is only the mind joined in God and Spirit and that Christ consciousness that can then offer me better thoughts, the highest thoughts of love. And that can take the scales off of my own eyes, in which I cannot see clearly from my own body senses. And I become the channel for Spirit. I become the vessel for Spirit to drop the little thoughts away. Get that sand out of my home, out of my consciousness, and to be that clear, open vessel for the thoughts of God. And in that, then, the rush of letting go of any separation and being in that mystical level consciousness, where I know and can marvel at the interconnectedness of the cigar-smoking man in myself and now all of us right now, a couple years later. This is the model that we're speaking of. I didn't realize it till I read it in my journal and I saw it, and I share it with you now in the hopes that it gives you a model for yourself. Since reading that, what I've been able to do and see is to apply it in my life. You see, the beauty of miracles, the shifts of perception, the beauty of truth principles is that it doesn't matter whether it's some guy smoking a cigar on the beach in Kauai, man, got it really rough, right? Or you're in the midst of a pandemic, or you've lost your job, or you have a diagnosis. You see, when you understand what the map is, I can take any one of those circumstances and I can play the narrative out according to this map of consciousness. And if I can do that when I'm feeling a victim of COVID, when I'm feeling a victim of my past, when I'm feeling a victim of the world, I can close my eyes and I can turn away from that. And I could say to myself, okay, here's this irritant, here's something, here are my negative thoughts about it. How do I shift my thoughts? Well, I can start to have better thoughts about it. I can start to have the thoughts that somehow it is for my good. Somehow, if I shift my thinking about it, if I embrace it in some way, if I accept it as it is and embrace it in my life, then somehow a shift in my consciousness will occur, and the thoughts of God, the thoughts of love will come and descend upon my awareness. And I can imagine myself rising. I can imagine myself rising and allowing the thoughts of God to give me a new narrative about these situations, until I can see the conclusion, the end of the story, where I can see the gifts. What might those gifts be for you? Whatever trouble you're having right now, whatever challenge, close your eyes and walk through these ideas and begin to see the end of the story. and what the gifts are. And in this way, we can create a spaciousness around those things that we're constricted about and fearful about. And in that spaciousness, we create room for a new idea, for the voice of God, the voice of Christ, the vision of Christ, and the mystical experience of oneness and knowing all things are for God, are for good. I love our teaching because that truth is true always in every situation, no big, no small, in God, in principle, in truth. And so there's this saying in the Bible, it's a biblical saying, and what it says is, whatsoever is true, whatsoever is honest, whatsoever is just, whatsoever is pure, whatsoever is of good news, focus there. Think on these things. Think on these things. And the whole shift occurs, and you rise from that victim and you become the victor of your consciousness, and you become a manifester, and then you move into that vessel consciousness, that channel consciousness, and everything changes in our lives. We are at winter time in our hemisphere right now, 2 years later from being in Kauai, and it's winter. And winter invites us to turn within, to look for the light within, to light and illuminate our homes, to clean and clear, go through the journals, discard those that you no longer need, clean and clear your consciousness like the crab, and just get that stuff out. Get it out of your realm, of your environment. And the other beauty about this time, this winter experience, and as we prepare for the birth of the Christ within each of us, a rebirth, I would say, because it's already there, but it's that kindling of what is already there, that fire starter that's already within us, that in this winter experience we can see farther. When you walk in the woods now, you can see farther. And the trees are bare and devoid of the clutter, of the thoughts, and we turn within to this consciousness as we prepare for this holiday season, as we prepare for the celebration of the birth of the Christ consciousness that you are and that I am. This year we're challenged to really be the light bearers in our lives, to shift the story and the narrative with the end in mind of good, of glory, of health, of wholeness. I am only affected by my own thoughts. And when I accept this as wholly true, always I am set free. And so are you. I am so excited to have shared this with you. I hope in some way it touches you. I hope that you can take it and remember it as an inspiration for whatever you're going through in your life. And as far as the tools go, as far as if you need help shifting your thoughts and your consciousness, I'm going to invite you to reach out to a trusted friend, to reach out to your minister, or to reach out to somebody who you feel safe with, and let them help you shift your consciousness, think of new thoughts, and work through these levels of consciousness with you. I'm here to do that. I know Brother T's here to do that. I know the True Thought community is here to do that with you. And we love you so much that we just want to keep sharing the truth that sets us all free, that you and I and God and love are one and is the only reality and truth. Everything else is just part of our curriculum to remember that end of that narrative, the end of that story, that we are one. I love you. God bless you. Have a magnificent day.